Welcome to the Legislator of the Week, a discussion platform for legislators on their bills, motions, matters of public urgent importance, and political struggles. My name is Abdullahi Aminu. Today, I have received in the program a first-class graduate of mass communication who started his politics immediately after graduation as a member of the House of Representatives under the defunct SDP in 1992. Our guest today, who is now the leader of the House of Representatives, is Alhassan Ado Doguwa. Honourable, welcome to the program.
You're welcome, my brother. Viewers, it's my pleasure being on this platform.
Honourable Doguwa, I would like you to briefly tell our viewers who is Ado Doguwa.
Auzubillahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyil karim. I think without mincing words, I will just go ahead to say that I was born in Doguwa local government, which of course was then in Tudunwada local government, some 58 years back. Went to primary school, proceeded to government secondary school Gaya, where I had my secondary school education. And from there I went straight to the School of General Studies under Bayero University, Kano, for 1 year pre-degree program. And on completion of my pre-degree program, I proceeded to the Department of Mass Communications, where I studied mass communications and specialized in print journalism. Like you rightly said, I graduated with the flying colors. And after my graduation from Bayero University, Kano, traditionally I had to go to the national service, which of course I did my national service in Borno, in Maiduguri, Borno State, where I served in Borno Radio Television Corporation. Immediately after my service, as God may have it, even while I was on the campus, I've been quite excited and engaged into campus politics. So it was like even in school, I was preparing for active politics in the society. So immediately after my graduation, coincidentally, a new local government was carved out of Tudunwada, which is now called Doguwa local government. And I quickly ran into the business of that time and contested as chairman for that new local government. God did not make it possible for us. But immediately after the local government elections, when Kabiru Gaya emerged as the governor of Kano State then in 1992, two of my state assembly members from Doguwa local government won under the opposition NRC. But by the will of God and the support of my people, I now got renominated by the SDP, Social Democratic Party, SDP then, unopposed. So I got my primaries ticket, my ticket for the primaries of my party, unopposed. And as a result of the consolidation and cooperation of party members, I was able to scale through, and I was first elected into the House of Representatives of the Third Republic. That was in 1992. And like you can recall, it was short-lived by Abacha coup. I think virtually we stayed for like 13 months, between 11 to 13 months, and the military took over. We were all sacked and got back home. That was the beginning anyway. And from there we continued. When you have politics, we are in politics. When there was no politics, we were still in politics. What I mean by whether you have politics or not is that I didn't go back to public service. I didn't go back to any public employment, and I was never a trader. I was only doing some petty agriculture, subsistence agriculture to sustain my family and perhaps to engage myself. But the business predominantly has been politics. Even when you had some incessant military interventions And sometimes you find the military trying to co-opt the civilians into the administration in order to give it what you call that semblance of popular acceptability. But in any case, I remain in politics until 2003, I think, when I got back to real contest and I was able to get elected into the House of Representatives under the PDP, People's Democratic Party. And from there, I continued. I got re-elected again after that first tenure. I got re-elected again, and for now I think I've been re-elected into the House for 5 consecutive terms. And I today stand, I wouldn't like to say most experienced, but I stand as a very experienced legislator on the floor of the House of Representatives. And without being too proud about myself, I would like to tell you that I today stand as the oldest serving member from the whole of the northern Nigeria on the floor of the House of Representatives. I chaired some committees, like the House Committee on Niger Delta. I was deputy chairman. I also presided over the House Committee on Millennium Development Goals as chairman. I served in some global interparliamentary unions and platforms where I represented Nigeria, like the what do you call it, the conglomeration of African parliamentarians on Millennium Development Goals. And lastly, in the 8th Assembly, when Speaker Dogara was in charge, I also served as the Chief Whip of the House of Representatives. Today, as God may have it, I'm standing in as the leader of the House of Representatives, or if you like, you call me the majority leader of the House of Representatives under the ruling APC government of Muhammadu Buhari, and of course the leading party on the floor of the House, or by extension in the National Assembly.
Honourable Ado Doguwa, this your profile has reminded me of a strong landmark that you put in place in that 1992, where you register your presence immediately after you have gone to that house. You register your presence as a honorable member of the House of Representatives. What was the secret?
I think you think, I think in politics, you actually don't have something like you call secret. Because politics is like the business of the public. And when you are dealing with an art, for me, politics is an art. I don't want to believe that politics is a science. It's only in science where you have H2O to give you water and nothing more. It's only in politics that it's only in sciences when you say 2 plus 2, it will definitely give you 4. If you said 5 minus 10, it will give you something else. What I mean to say here is that in politics, where I assume to be an art, there is no definite formula or definite projection that will let you define why you did this or why you will do this. What I'm trying to say is that whatever action you take in politics, it tends to be subjective. So I cannot give you a straightforward reason why I was prominent in the Third Republic House of Representatives as a member, even though I was fresh on the floor of the House of Representatives. But I want to believe that virtually, when you have a special interest on a matter, and when you have the exuberance, you have the commitment and determination to do what you are doing with within the best of your ability, then definitely you find yourself doing an extraordinary thing. Extraordinary because you find you have what you call comfort in what you are doing, you have conviction in what you are doing, and when you have the zeal to serve your people selflessly, then definitely you have a lot of things to do quite uncommon with what others do in those days. And I want to believe that the kind of politics we had in those days was a politics of selflessness. This issue of personal aggrandizement of materials, this issue of resources or money being the #1 factor was not there. What was only popular then was commitment to serve people. It was ideology. So I was driven completely by ideology. So I want to believe that that sense of commitment to the ideology of the Social Democratic Party, SDP, was what gave me the opportunity to stand out, quite different from other people who might have come under the NRC then. And my background also was political. My dad, my blood father, my biological father, was also a politician. He was in the First Republic politics. Alhaji Ado was a member of the NEPU, and he was prominently called Ado Abga because of the connection the NEPU then had with the Grand Alliance of the opposition parties, what they used to call United Progressive Grand Alliance. NEPU, which was the predominant opposition party in Kano State, which of course my dad belonged to, later joined that Grand Alliance to fight the NPC, and my dad was given that name as a nickname, that Alhaji Ado Obga. Obga simply means he was the leader of the youth in those times, in those days, and Obga simply means United Progressive Grand Alliance. NNCC and some other Western parties like that of Olo were all members. Joseph Tarkas and what have you, they were all members of this Grand Alliance. And I think the objective then was to come up with a platform, formidable platform, to fight the ruling, NPC. So I think that background also gave me some kinds of special projection to be special in whatever I was doing in that republic.
If I have gotten you right, based on what you have just said, you have identified one factor that has actually led you to become successful in that 1992 House of Representatives, which is political calculation. What do you say about it?
I want to tell you without any fear of contradiction that it was not as if we were doing politics of calculation. Different circumstances came up. And when you find yourself in various circumstances, then such circumstances definitely will be viewed and defined in accordance with the situation you found yourself. I think that is how best I can explain the nature of politics in those days, which of course you know it differs from the kind of politics we have here. The moment you kickstart any program now and you want to run for elections, even if at the primary level, the first question is that, oh, what does he have to offer? If you go to contest, for instance, after winning election, you want to contest maybe for this or that, the next question is that, oh, what does he have to offer? The politics of those days was not about what you have to offer in terms of material gain or material benefit. It was what you had to offer from your brain. What kind of experiences do you have? What capacity do you have? And what kind of popularity do you also command among your people? No matter what you can offer, no matter what you do, I think the fact that you are a popular person, your people identify with you, and you have won elections successfully without any question, will make you quite more acceptable to the people than talking of what you have to offer in terms of money or material gain.
Honourable Ado Doguwa, as one of the front-line members of the SDP at that moment, you have played another role in supporting the former governor of Kano State, Dr. Rabi Musa Kwankwaso, to become the deputy speaker of that house. What was it like?
You see, like I've always said, politics in those days was not only about ideology. It was about members of the party being attached to their party principles and policies. And members of the party in those days were also committed to respecting people in authority. The structure of the party, the leadership of the party had always been first and foremost. So we were bound by same commitment as party members. Rabi Musa Kwankwaso, as God may have it, we started as good friends and good colleagues, and in the same party. And I want to believe without any fear of contradiction that we had same political ideology with him. And we started as members of the Social Democratic Party, the SDP. And because of the party supremacy and the respect members must have for their political leadership, when the position was zoned to the northwestern part of this country, we all rallied around him. It was not about me single-handedly supporting Rabi Musa Kwankwaso. That was the decision of the party. That was also the decision of our leaders and stakeholders from the northern part of the country, when the position was later narrowed down, what we now call as micro-zoned to Kano State. We also came up, of course, he was more elderly, and he went to school quite earlier than most of us. He was in the civil service, and that gave him an edge over us, absolutely. And the fact that we all believed in ourselves, we allowed him to just take it, and he took it, and I believe he did very well as Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives. And it was an issue whereby we were bound by party commitment and party solidarity. Whoever, for instance, if any other person was given to us to serve in that capacity, we would have taken the same person in the same manner. But as God may have it, his name came up on considerations of so many factors. And at the end, our leaders said, oh, it is Rabi Musa Konkosu. And we rallied around him. And we called him our leader.
Can you share with our viewers the achievement of that House of Representatives? Which of the houses is the one that you served for 13 months?
Well, I think if I should be honest with myself and the people over there, I think you can actually not cite anything practical. You can also not come up with something institutional to say, oh, the Third Republic House of Representatives has achieved this and that. But if I would like to say in one way or the other, that at least in every journey there is a beginning. In every movement there is a stepping stone. So for the fact that the Third Republic House of Representatives gave birth to the emergence of a renewed democracy in Nigeria, the fact that the Third Republic House of Representatives was one step forward to stop military junta into our democracy, it was like that republic of the Third Republic House of Representatives, for me, it has therefore provided what you can call a platform. It has provided what you can call a stepping stone. It has also provided what one can call an institutional basis where parliamentary democracy can take off from. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that you may not be able to cite pragmatically or in terms of legislative achievements that these are the number of achievements we have made in the Third Republic House of Representatives. But I think monumentally, you can say that the Third Republic House of Representatives, if nothing, we have provided the basis upon which subsequent assemblies built upon. We have also helped Nigeria's democracy to achieve what we can call democratic breakthrough, because that was the beginning of the stopping of the military junta into the affairs of democracy in our own country. So if nothing, this can be counted as an achievement. And we have been able to provide what we call a straightforward leadership. We have also provided a direction. We have also created some kind of party platforms where parties were built in accordance with what you can call political ideologies. It was only in those days when, through the support of the legislature, even though it was elected and the military was heading the executive, that we provided an opportunity whereby you had what you can call political parties that were built on the basis of ideology, two extreme ideologies. The kind of definition you have in the developed American democracy, the kind of definition you have in the England democracy, developed democracy, and the so many other democracies that you have across the globe, where you said, oh, these are the conservatives, these are the progressives. The SDP then was seen to be one of the most it was seen to be like the progressive component of the system, while the NRC was now seen to be like the conservative component of that system. So what I'm trying to say in essence, that I may not tell you the number of bills we made in the Third Republic House of Representatives. I may also not tell you some legislative achievements that we might have achieved, because in the first place the military did not even allow us to work. There was what we call no-go area. President Babangida mapped out what he called no-go area for the assembly to cover. At the moment you have an institution like the legislature and it's being barred from making legislations and is being asked not to indulge into some aspect of public governance, then it's like you have no legislature. Security, for instance, we cannot legislate on them. Even some economic policies, you can only come up with motions and what have you, but lawmaking in its actual sense of it, we were not allowed to actually legislate on the business of the government, and also even the extent to which we oversight agencies of governments was limited. So I think more or less the Third Republic Assembly was just like a ceremonial institution that was set up by the then military junta, at least to provide basis for subsequent achievements into coming up or entrenching a full democratic system in the country, which I believe by so doing we have been able to achieve. Every other subsequent assembly that we had after that built on that. And that is why when you get to the Speaker's office or you get to the Senate President office, the beginning of the developed democracy of Nigeria starts from the Third Republic House of Representatives.
If you are just joining us, the program you're watching is the Legislator of the Week with Honourable Alhassan Ado Doguwa, leader of the 9th House of Representatives. Honourable Ado Doguwa, I can remember after the interruption of that House of Representatives, you serve as a special advisor to Kano State Governor on Environment. What were your achievements?
Whether I like it or not, I cannot fight or displace history. That has been my history, and I will always claim my history. I was a very good friend of Dr. Rabi Musa Konkoso in those days. Not only a friend, I was his ally. Not only an ally, I was following him as my leader. You know, politics is something that you can always fall apart at any given point. Now that we fell apart, it does not make me too proud to disassociate myself with him completely in history, because history is there, you cannot cancel history. Immediately we came back, Rabi Musa Konkoso was able to clinch the position of the governor of Kano State. And as colleagues, he found me worthy of an appointment. And he gave me an appointment as special advisor to the governor on environment. I was also a special advisor to the governor on intergovernmental affairs. You see, all these things were done because he had the conviction that we were one and same. And he felt I was worthy for his confidence. I was worthy for an appointment he gave to me. And of course I accepted and served the government and him as my principal to the best of my ability. And throughout the time I stayed with him, I had been a very loyal member of his party and a very loyal member of his political team. And that has always been my nature. Wherever you find me, you will find me with total commitment to serve my boss, with total commitment and being loyal to my boss and to the system I fall in. I'm not someone that play the double game. When I'm with you, I'm with you. If I'm not with you, I'm just not with you. And nothing else can change my disposition. That's just it. Now that I work with Governor Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, I am with him in total. I have the conviction that he is my leader today. And under no circumstances should I derail from being loyal to him, because I believe in his principles. I believe in his ideology. I also believe in his own style of leadership. That is why I follow him behind, and we join hands together to serve our people. Ganduje is now my boss, and I never regretted being his disciple. I never regretted being his ally. I'm still proud to be a man of Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, because I have so many things to show to my people, courtesy of his government and courtesy of his person. And he's someone who respects me, just like I respect him too. When you have a leader that respects you and you respect him, a leader who looks at you as a partner, not just as a boy. Some other leaders will just think, oh, you are my boy. The days of having an ally turned to a political boy or a political errand are gone. Especially when you have people who have the brain, who have the capacity, who have the experience like you do. The moment you begin to consider them as, oh, these are my boys, and you are getting it right, that is what Ganduje has never made a mistake in that regard. That is what Ganduje has consistently been doing. Even Ganduje's messenger, a messenger in his office, is given his respect and is also given his own responsibility to carry. And Ganduje looks at his messenger as a component of the system of the government he's running. I think that is what one can call modern political system, and also modern system of democratic administration.
Honourable Ado Doguwa, we are just reviewing positions that you have held with a view of identifying the kind of contributions that you made in Nigerian history. I can remember you later become a special advisor to two Senate presidents, Chief Adolphus Wabara and Senator Ken Nnamani, respectively. What was the situation of the legislature at that time?
You see, legislature is an institution, not just an organization, it's an institution. And in an institution, you have players in that institution keyed to themselves, linked to themselves, looked at themselves as if they are brothers and sisters. The moment you are falling into, for instance, the police as an institution, for instance, you find policemen connected to one another. Some of them will say, oh, he was my cosmate. Or someone will say, he was 2 years ahead of me. They know themselves. So in legislature, especially in Nigerian legislative institution, we also have that kind of ideology. We have that kind of disposition that when you happen to be someone's colleague at a given time, then you will continue to call yourself, oh, we were cosmates, we were colleagues, we were members of the Third Republic House of Representatives. That gave us a wider spectrum of relationship. I still remember people like Uzo Ojikalu, the former governor of Abia State, was my colleague on the floor of the House of Representatives. People like Abdullahi Waziri Tambua, senior brother to the governor of Sokoto State today, was my colleague on the floor of the House of Representatives. So also the likes of Dr. Rabi Musa Konkoso, people like Bola Ahmed Tinubu, with due respect to him, who is now the president-elect of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, was in the Senate of the Third Republic, while I was in the House of Representatives, and by extension, we served as members of the same National Assembly. So Adolphus Wabara, like you said, was also my colleague on the floor of the Third Republic House of Representatives. He was quite elderly, of course, just like Rabi Musa Konkoso was elderly. He was quite more exposed than myself, but he had no other name to reflect to me than, oh, he was my colleague, and he will always identify me as his colleague. So when the goings were not good here in Kano, my party lost election. And when we lost election in Kano, I now got in touch with my allies, people we served in the then institution. And it happened, Adolphus Wabara became the Senate President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria then. And he gladly, on the basis of that tie, on the basis of that institutional coherence or that institutional connection, found me worthy again to appoint me as a special advisor on political party matters. And after some time, he changed my department to governmental affairs. I think I served him for the period he served as Senate President. And when he had issues, and at the end he got out of office, the succeeding Senate President was then Senator Ken Nnamani. Ken Nnamani is a nationalist. Ken Nnamani is a statesman. So when he came and found some of us working that were employed by Senator Adolphus Wabara, he quickly called us upon. He interviewed all of us personally. And at the end, he retained a good number of us to continue with him. That he did on the basis of his own understanding as to whether you can be able to catch up with his own style of leadership. And as God may have it, I had fallen in the number of those he felt I can continue with administration, because he was a pragmatic leader. He's someone who looks out for result. Probably when I look at the way and manner Wabara employed me, it was like he was employing a friend. He was giving me like what you can call a meal ticket. But when Nnamani came, he looked at all of us and made sure that he retained only those who can add value to his administrative system. So I thank God Ken Nnamani found me worthy, competent, and very dedicated to continue with him. And I continued with him till the end of his tenure. That was how I got to work and served 2 Senate Presidents under same tenure. And today I can say I'm proud that I have served both Senator Adolphus Wabara, who was my friend, and of course my leader, and I have also served his successor, Senator Ken Nnamani, who still I looked at him with all sense of respect, and he's one leader that I always look forward. Sometimes you can call he's like my my role model, very good role model, if for nothing, at least for his nationalistic commitment, patriotic zeal. I think he's one Southeasterner that I know, that I can tell you is a complete Nigerian. No matter what the Igbos do, or no matter what the Igbos says, I believe Senator Ken Namani is one of the people from the southeast that I can confide in, and I can say without fear of contradiction that he is but a Nigerian, and a Nigerian, only a Nigerian.
The program you're watching is the Legislator of the Week, where we are discussing bills, motions, and issues of politics by the legislators. Stay tuned. Honourable Ado Doguwa, I can remember you have succeeded in returning to the House of Representatives, where you mentioned in your profile that you served as the Deputy Chairman, House Committee on Niger Delta Development Commission. How would you describe that particular session of the National Assembly?
I came back in 2003 to 2007, and that was when Honourable Mulikat was first elected as the Speaker. Unfortunately, she was short-lived, and Honourable Bankole, Dimeji Bankole, took over from her, even though it was same time. Like I've always said, Aminu, legislature as an institution is something that is being built over time. So when you talk about the Third Republic House of Representatives, for me it was like the beginning. If you talk about subsequent other dispensations of the House of Representatives or the National Assembly, these are successive sessions of the National Assembly. So I've always said that since it is an institutional thing, since it is something that is being built over time, then you will always expect this question of perfection as time continues. Of course, when we started, it was not as good as when others came up after us later. It was also not as good when you want to compare perhaps the 5th House of Representatives with the 6th, or you want to compare the 6th with the 7th. So I have always said that it is an institutional progression where you have the institution being strengthened, the culture, and even the concept of experience and knowledge of members. It gets better with time. That is what we call gradual perfection. So for me, the 6th House of Representatives, like you mentioned, when Bankole was the Speaker, we had our own problems then. Perhaps even some of the instruments, some of the working things that you require, including the chamber environment, the library, for instance, the kind of training we underwent, I think we are not as good. It was still as work in progress. So one good thing you may say about those assemblies, perhaps, is still some presence of what you can call party respect and party ideologies playing. The concept of party respect and ideologies of political parties was still playing out. So I think it provided a good direction as well. And as time continued, possibly when Bankole left office, I think Honourable Aminu NTA came up, and he also came with his own style of leadership, just like he came with his own challenges. Because Aminu NTA, then you can remember, was not the choice of his political party. But he was later he was able to make it, and subsequently has been able to stabilize the institution of the House of Representatives, because right from day one till the end, of course, because of his ability to hold members tight, and because of his also generous nature, very generous person. I mean, Waziri Tambua, not only generous, is somebody who you can call humble in politics, and humility is one major factor that you must have in parliamentary democracy, especially when you emerge as leader. And you know, our leadership in the National Assembly or leadership in the House or in the Senate is about first among equals. It's not because you are any better than anyone. Someone that is the last on the ladder can be better than you. Someone that is maybe along the middle can also be as good, but you only happen to be the one to take charge At the given time, you are given the opportunity. And even the speaker or the deputy speaker or the house leader or anybody on the ladder of leadership will tell you that he is there not because he is any better than any other member of the House of Representatives, but simply you cannot have two speakers at the same time. You cannot have two deputy speakers at the same time. So also you cannot have two majority leaders at the same time. So for that reason, then others must concede to one other person to be the speaker. Members must concede to only one other person to be the deputy speaker. It is on the concept of that, the concept of first among equals, that you are there. And I want to believe the business of the House then was not as vibrant as it happened to be in the assemblies that succeeded it. Perhaps if you compare possibly with the time when I think it was Aminu Bello Masari that played out before Tambwal. So all I'm trying to say is that the nature of the leadership of the House is subject or is based on the line of succession. Line of succession, because definitely the first cannot be as good as the second. The second cannot be as good as the third. The third cannot be as good as the fourth. And I want to tell you at the moment, without fear of contradiction, that today's leadership of the ninth House of Representatives stands tall amongst all other leadership that preceded it, because we have gotten a lot of intervention. The relationship between the government and the legislature is quite brilliant, and the amount of resources also that is being accorded to the National Assembly to be able to train members, capacity building, to make members act and perform like other developed democracy is quite much better than it used to be in the past. That is probably why you can now see Speaker Femi Bajabiamila beating his chest to say that he has provided the best leadership of the House of Representatives. He has also provided the best opportunities for members of the House of Representatives to actually intervene in terms of developmental projects and in terms of giving back to the communities what we call dividend of democracy. And he has succeeded in that. It is only in this period, in this administration of Speaker Femi Bajabiamila, you have a member who will have an envelope worth over 300 million naira of projects. Some of them empowerment, some of them youth empowerment, women empowerment, some of them capital projects, provisions of water supply, building of schools in primary schools and even secondary schools, building of tarred roads. I want to say without any fear of being quoted that Femi Bajabiamila actually did very well in terms of carrying along members of the House to be able to achieve what they should achieve for the benefit of their people down the ladder, down in the constituencies. And I will be afraid if anybody comes up now as speaker and cannot be able to size up, then definitely there will be a problem. Femi did very well, and members are proud of that.
Honourable, you have proven yourself as a parliamentary asset after returning again to the House of Representatives, where you have vested most of your political career. You served as chairman, House Committee on Millennium Development Goals. What was the work of that committee?
Millennium Development Goals was one global initiative that was driven by the United Nations under the Millennium Development Goals concept and the Millennium Development Goals Declaration. It was one concept or initiative that was supposed to have been carried out globally, especially by member countries, members of the United Nations Development Goals Initiative. So, being a special initiative coming up from a global institution, Nigeria became a party to that. And coincidentally, in those days, Nigeria happened to be a beneficiary of what they call debt relief. The debt relief gains were the major investment, major resources upon which Nigeria's Millennium Development Goals was vested upon. It was $1 billion every year. $1 billion was a chunk of money, very big amount of money then. And it was what we now used and co-opted. We were able to use that $1 billion, translate it into Naira value and commit it to the budget of the country, the federal budget. So it was now called debt relief gain, and resources or this money coming from the debt relief window was only subjected to be applied to Millennium Development Goals targets, and those targets were 7: basic education, water supply, maternal health, environmental improvement of environmental sustainability. They were numbering about 7. These were what we call 7 Millennium Development Goals, including fight against HIV, fight against some of these children-inclined diseases. So those resources that were accruing from the debt relief were only applicable to what? To this Millennium Development Goals window alone. So for those of us in the House, perhaps possibly because of the need for the institution of the legislator to supervise and be able to also oversight the spending of government funds, then this $1 billion was captured in the budget, and then you needed to have a committee, standing committee, that would look after the implementation or the sorting out of this fund to the achievement of Millennium Development Goals. That was how I became chairman of the committee. I was the second chairman. Hajia Saudatu Sani, a former member from Lere Federal Constituency, was the maiden chairman, and she did very well as a woman. So I took over from her. She is my senior sister. We neighbor each other. She's in Lere while I was in Dogwa, while I'm in Dogwa. So when I took over from her, I rushed to her and became her student. I got a lot of insights from her. She guided me, directed me, and gave me all the opportunity to continue from where she stopped. And it was on that basis that I can say I did all what I have done as the chairman of the House Committee on Millennium Development Goals. And major things that we have focused on in Nigeria was this issue of environmental sustainability, this issue of fight against HIV, this issue about basic education, universal basic education, where we injected so many funds to be able to come up with school buildings and facilities that will create for what you call conducive learning and teaching environment. In those days, you go to schools, especially primary schools, you find our kids studying under the shade of the tree. Some of them you find them in the village head's palace. Some of them somewhere. Of course, a caricature of what you can call schools. But I want to say, without any fear of being quoted or fear of contradiction, that Millennium Development Goals intervention, as at that time, which lasted for about 6 years, had really impacted positively in so many aspects of our lives as a country. And up till now, the foundation we laid in primary education, the foundation we laid in the fight against HIV, the foundation we also laid in terms of environmental sustainability, and so many other things as they relate to the concept and the targets of Millennium Development Goals are very good milestone, a very good basis upon which successive government have built on it. Until today, you find even in the present day government under Muhammadu Buhari, some of the key policies and principles of the government of the day are tagged, or they are geared still towards perfecting what we call the unfinished businesses of the MDGs. It was not as if MDGs was perfected. It was not as if MDGs was done 100%. The targets that were said to be achieved were actually not achieved 100%, which means you have some other targets that were left unachieved. And you can find out that even in the successive government where Millennium Development Goals has stopped, they now came up with what you call the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. Of course, they stopped for MDGs because the target and the mileage also stopped. But since there are unfinished businesses, some targets and achievements have not been perfectly achieved, then they now came up, the United Nations came up with another component of a development program, global development program. The MDGs was about global development program. So since they have not perfected 100%, then there was need for the government, for the what do you call them? The signatory countries, signatory countries to continue And therefore, the United Nations now provided another basis for them to continue to be able to achieve some of those things that were left unachieved. And that is why we now came up with what they call Sustainable Development Goals. I think Sustainable Development Goals is still in force, and they are working towards perfecting some of those imperfections that have not been achieved during the Millennium Development Goals. Hajia Amina, for instance, the lady from Gombe State, is one lady that you can call like what you can call a visionary leader.
Honorable, there were speculations that you became the chief whip of the House after the loss of your speakership nominee, Femi Bajabiamila, at that time to Honourable Yakubu Dogara. Some people are alleging that that was a break of relationship between you and Femi Bajabiamila at that time. What is the truth of the matter?
I think this issue kept on coming, and I had always provided my answer to the best of my knowledge. You see, when you have a cause to fight, or you have a cause to work for, and for any reason, the major cause or the major objective of that cause fails, then you have like what you call a complete collapse or breakdown of the synergy of work among the stakeholders. When I started with Femi Bajabiamila in the 8th Assembly, Femi was my only speakership candidate. I did all I could to make sure that he became speaker. I even went extra mile. Everybody knew how I took that fight seriously to ensure that Femi became speaker. So for me, no matter what I did thereafter, as long as I fought for him to be the speaker, I gave him my vote as the speaker, and at the end, himself and myself lost out in that bid. So you have nothing more to talk of my relationship with him. Because when he now lost out, there was a leadership, and that leadership has to be protected. As an institutional person, as someone who has the nitty-gritties of the kind of experiences one should have as a legislator, I must believe that business of the House must continue even when our cause was not successful. So some of the people who used to say that, oh, I broke away from Femi, they were those people who felt at that moment they should continue to fight the elected leadership under Dogara. It doesn't matter how Dogara became the speaker, but at least he was elected the Speaker of the House of Representatives. And that was the leadership that each and every one of us must respect. So as an experienced legislator, I had no other cause whatsoever than to protect what we had on ground as leadership. And whether for good or for bad, Dogara was the speaker. You remember also, when we were working for Femi, it was not as if there was no agreement. There was a clear-cut agreement that Femi was to be the speaker, Munguno, the member from Borno State, was to be the deputy speaker, while I was also penciled down as what? As the leader of the House. That was the agreement. That was how we started. So I want to believe if there is anything you can call like a shortcut or cutting corners, it was me that was almost shortchanged by the system that I have served. Femi was our speaker on that arrangement. Munguno was our deputy speaker on that arrangement. And I was billed to be the leader of the House then if all things went well. So at the end, Femi was allowed to take his fate in his hands because he contested and lost out by about 18 votes. At least he contested and he was given his due. He also ran with Honourable Munguno. You remember, even when Femi now, when Dogara won, there was a strong motion, which of course was reasonable, that since we have a speaker already elected and he's from the Northeast, somebody moved a motion that Munguno should step down because we cannot have speaker and deputy speaker from the same zone. I got up on the floor to say, Dogara became speaker on his own. It was not our making. Our party has an ideology. Our party has an agenda. And our agenda was for Femi and Munguno to be speaker and deputy speaker. So even if Dogara had succeeded now through the window to become the speaker, I felt we had to continue the bidding of the party. And that was why we did not stop. I now move to say that Honourable Monguno must run for Deputy Speaker, no matter what happens. It's now left to our members to now think along that line to say, oh no, let us not have Speaker and Deputy Speaker from the same zone. But contest, Monguno must contest. It was if I knew what was coming. I was doing that out of commitment. I was doing that out of conviction. I was doing that out of respect for my party arrangement. Femi had to contest. He contested, lost. So our Deputy Speaker also must run, even if he was going to lose, so that we can be able to conclude the party's agenda, to conclude what the party directed us to do. So Aminu, I ask you, if Femi took his place and lost, if Monguno, I insisted Monguno should contest, he contested and lost, then when Dogara now became the speaker, he on his own, in the principles of working together, in the principle of united leadership, now gave to our group that bring the house leader. That since I have won, I want Femi's group to give me the house leader. Then who should be given the chance to become the house leader? Under the prior arrangement. So under the prior arrangement, I will expect that I should be given the house leader, because there was an agreement in our group that Femi was our speakership candidate, Monguno was our deputy speakership candidate, and I was billed for majority leader of the House of Reps. So if a position is now given to this group for position of the house leader, then I will assume Femi and Monguno and all other members of our group should do me favor to say, oh, our house leader should be Ado from the northwestern part of the country. That was what happened. But at the end, in that kind of circumstances, we got what we call like a letter from the party that now said, okay, since Femi lost out in the speakership race, he should be given the opportunity to serve as house leader. Then we continue. I didn't have to argue that. I was not fighting Femi to become the leader of the house, because that was the position of my party. But what would you do if at the end Dogara said, okay, I want to work with Doguwa too. Femi, take your house leader, and I still want to give cheap whip to someone like Doguwa to further galvanize and unite the leadership of the house so that we continue to work in peace and harmony. Why should I not take? So it was under this notion, it was under this understanding that the party now recommended Femi to be the leader of the house, and Dogara now insisted to work with me in his leadership and gave me the position of chief whip of the House of Representatives. So all those kind of insinuations, all those kind of speculations, projecting me or mispresenting me to the public as if, oh no, I just departed or I parted away from my main group, was made by what I can call mischief makers, people who are always there to give you a bad name. But I want to say without any fear of contradiction, Aminu, that I had been in Femi's group consistently, and even now that I became house leader under his own speakership, it was nobody that imposed me on him. It was not even the party that suggested me to be house leader to Femi Bajabiamila. I am now house leader courtesy of Femi Bajabiamila, because he believes I can work with him with the absolute sense of loyalty. He knows I can work with him with all sense of respect. And that is what I'm just doing. If Femi for any reason considered me as a betrayer, if for any reason Femi had me on his bad notes in his mind, I don't think Femi will willingly accept me to serve with him as leader of the House of Representatives. I want to put it clear to whoever cares to hear or cares to know that I was never imposed on Femi to serve as majority leader of the 9th House of Representatives. He personally and single-handedly selected me and gave me the opportunity to serve with him as the leader of the House of Representatives. And I'm doing that very gladly. And I can be proud to say till today, I have never found a situation where I fell out with him. I work with him with all sense of commitment. I work with him with all sense of respect. And I am proud of my association with him. Some of the achievements he made personally, we are proud of them. Some of the achievements he made institutionally, some of the key achievements he has made, especially that one of relating very well with the executive arm of government, we must be proud together. So where Femi rise tall to be proud, we rise tall also along with him to be proud. Where he has fallen as a human being, to be found wanting in one way or the other, we also associate ourselves with such exigencies of human nature. But I want to say without any question that his administration is one administration that we are all proud of. Members are proud of it. Those of us in the leadership are proud of it. And we will continue to work together, whatever happens.
Honourable Alhassan Ado Doguwa, now to your political issue of the moment. The police received complaints of criminal conspiracy against you during the 2023 general elections held on Saturday, 27th February, which has proceeded to the magistrate court in Kano. What is your response on this?
You see, one thing I will always put straight about this crisis, this issue, is that, politics can take someone anywhere, and politics can create all sorts of problems, especially when you are playing politics of conspiracy, politics of desperation. When you are dealing with people who are very hopeless in nature, hopeless in the sense that they have never succeeded in their own kind of political games, and they will never succeed in their own political games. So they will be left with no options than to blackmail, mischief, dent someone's image. That is just it. These are people who are completely desperate. Desperate. I have been in the house for 32 years. Oh, they are not happy about it. They are not happy about the good developments, the good omen we have always brought to our people. They feel politics is about like a game of chance. Somebody can just come and pick and go, or you run and just print posters, run, identify yourself and win elections. It's never done that way. Our people have grown so intelligently, especially in my own area. Our people are so exposed. They can differentiate between the chips and the rice. You cannot just come from the city after serving donkey years in your own sphere of life without doing anything, didn't add any value to your communities and your society, and you come and think, oh, people will vote for you to go and represent them, especially in the National Assembly, where you take people of integrity, people who matters. So this is the crux of the matter.
Lastly, Honourable Leader, you have now succeeded in winning the election, but the question lies on how do you intend to put more effort in the incoming 10th National Assembly affairs, being declared winner of the Doguwa federal constituency in the Saturday supplementary election?
You see, for me, it's going to be like work in progress. I'm not going to the House as a first term, nor am I going as a second term. I'm going as a seasoned legislator, someone who is not only experienced, but who has been a master on the field. So all I'm doing is to simply continue from where I stopped. I may have some new faces to join hands with them, take advantage of their various experiences, take advantage of their diverse nature and background. Of course, I will have to learn from them as well. They are not just new per se. They could be new on the floor of the House, but they are not new in the areas of their own professional professions. Some of them are professional people. Some of them are into so many other things that I may not have the opportunity to have explored. So for me, it's going to be a continuation of the very good job we were doing. Consolidation on the gains of the previous assemblies that we are built on. So I think it's going to be work in progress.
Thank you very much, Honourable Ado Doguwa, for being part of our program this week.
Thank you, and it's my pleasure being with you on this platform. Thank you, viewers.
This is where we are rounding up our program this week with Honourable Alhassan Ado Doguwa, leader of the 9th House of Representatives. Let's meet next week with some program with another guest. I'm Abdullahi Aminu saying bye for now.